This week on PTL, we check out both sides of the rift in the LCS.
Take a spin through the Asia Premier Leagues and tweak your fantasy scores.
So hold on to your butts because PrimeTime League starts right now.
Oh, here comes Brown. Can Huey get the pentakill in the bottom lane? He can!
Team Liquid, have they really broken the curse?
There's more domination in that series than the entire 50 Shades series combined, I think.
Hello and welcome to PrimeTime League. I am Rivington Biz III along with Joshua Jat Leesman, and we are ready to hit the ground running.
Yes, and with all the leagues back in full swing, we have a lot to cover. So let's hit it.
Let's hit it indeed. A hot announcement to start things off. This morning, Riot revealed all of the details about the upcoming Mid-Season Invitational.
Yes, the Mid-Season Invitational will bring League of Legends action to the East Coast of the United States when it kicks off in Tallahassee, Florida on May 7th through May 10th. And it will take place at the Donald L. Tucker Civic Center on the campus of Florida State University. The top pro teams from 6 regions around the world will fight for regional pride. The leagues competing in the tournament will be the North American and European LCS, the LCK, the LPL, the LMS, and the winner of the International Wildcard Invitational, which will happen next month in Turkey.
There'll be some good games. The teams will engage in a single round-robin group stage. After that, the top 4 teams will enter a best-of-5 bracket where one team will be crowned the winner. So, TLDR, multi-regional tournament in Florida. Time to bust out your pool party skins. Tickets will be available soon, so keep your eye on lolesports.com to find out how you can join us. And please bring the sunscreen.
Yeah, I can't wait for that pool party Rek'Sai skin.
Yeah, right? Just kidding. There's no pool party Rek'Sai skin. She can't swim.
Yeah, she only goes underground, not underwater.
That's right. But before we break out the BF Beach blanket at the Mid-Season Invitational, the teams will make a stop in Poland for IEM Katowice next week. And yesterday, the group stages for that tournament were announced.
Absolutely. Group A has Cloud9 starting off against the GE Tigers. Yikes. While SK Gaming takes on the Yowie Flash Wolves. And Group B will start off with Gambit versus CJ Entis and Team Solomid versus Team WE.
That's right. This tournament starts with best-of-1 double elimination group stage games beginning on March 13th. But don't worry if you can't catch the games because we'll have the highlights for you on the March 18th episode of PrimeTime League, baby.
All right.
That's right. Yeah. Right now, let's take a trip to China and take a look at the LPL as EDG took on the number 2 OMG, looking to climb in the standings. But Pawn, he was saying, I love my solo kills too much.
Yeah, this is our BF game of the weekend. We have to mention no Uzi in this game, as well as Xiang, the mid laner from the All-Star game last year, is actually their support in this game. Crazy.
Support playing Morgana so he can hit the bindings and still be troublesome. Going a little hard here. Loveling may have gotten the team into a bit of trouble where Koro was actually able to make a nice teleport on the end of this.
Yeah, big thing about this OMG team comp, they have the Twisted Fate for split pushing, but they ended up grouping up at the turret and trying to siege down as one unit, which is not what they want to do.
Going's home free. Oh, nope, you're not, Flame Spitter. He gets taken down. That's actually going to go over to Italy. And then at Baron, Xiang flying in here after the Event Horizon goes down to get a great Soul Shackle.
The big thing about that is Deft got completely wrecked in that fight. It's the big reason that EDG was not able to pull out the team fight win right here.
Yeah.
Still a very strange composition from OMG. Split pushing with the Twisted Fate, team fighting with the Gnar. This time, they get kind of the best of both worlds, distraction and the split push.
Yeah, you can't do much. A last stand with all the inhibitors down here, like we said. Cool going around, taking down 2 inhibitor turrets by himself, and it was just too much for EDG to handle in game 1.
Yeah, they got the minions rolling, and honestly, even though he got solo killed a few times at the start, Cool came up big, finishing his Mercurial Scimitar just for that extra QSS move speed.
QSS move speed, keeping him safe. Everything that TF loves. Heading into game 2 after that EDG win, OMG wanted revenge.
Yeah, and they start off killing up Deft, but they go a little bit deep, trade a kill back, and the teleport in from Koro makes him a little bit fed.
You're like, oh, he'll get one off of this. That's great, fantastic. But wait a minute, we're still in China. There's more fights to be had.
Best teleport ever. Everyone just comes to Kassadin to give him kill after kill. Top lane Kassadin against Tekram shouldn't actually be that great of a lane, but when you start off with 3 kills, it becomes a pretty great game.
Yeah, 13 minutes later, Deft finds OMG being a little daft here when they think they have the upper hand on this engage.
Yeah, Going gets a little bit too deep, and no one is keeping tabs onto Deft.
Ooh.
The Kassadin starts it off with some beautiful AoE damage, and Def just runs through them, almost picking up the pentakill.
Almost the pentakill indeed. That obviously got him going for this game. And Miko, again on the front line, kind of pays for things with his life. This time gets out safe. The team gets the payoff.
Listen, with an 11-kill Deft at the start of that fight, unless OMG immediately jumps on him, they're going to lose the fight.
Going tried, but not as tankier as we saw Shy earlier on Hacker Room. They start to fly through.
Different definitions of immediate right there, because halfway through the fight, no, you can't do it by yourself. You're a 1-6 horse.
Good win coming in for EDG. They stave off losing both of those games, keep themselves at the top.
Really good series, 1-1, still showing themselves to the top 2 teams in China.
That's right. So let's take a look at the current LPL standings. After 6 weeks of matches, Edward Gaming remains in first place with just a 6-point lead over OMG.
And 1 point behind OMG is Snake, who are just ahead of LGD, with Invictus and Vici hot on their trail.
And for more insight into what's happening in the LPL, let's bring in a treat who is anything but flaky. How's it going, Pastry Time?
It's great, Riv. How are you?
Not too bad. So let's start off by talking about the top 2 teams in the league right now, OMG and EDG. What was the deal with these guys? That game was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they came in again, top 2 teams in the LPL, looking to have a big game, and I think understandably split the series 1-1.
Yeah, and something was really interesting in that series. Game 1 did not have Uzi in it. It was Sen and Shi Yang as their bottom lane. OMG says they're going to experiment with bottom lanes now. First off, why would you not play Uzi every game, and how do you think it's going to go?
So, with not playing Uzi every game, part of it is that when OMG play with Uzi is such a farm-heavy and demanding player that there's just simply not enough resources on the map in most regular games to actually feed Cool, Go Going, and Uzi enough farm that they need to really get going in a game and go big. So I think playing Sun in some games to give Cool and Go Going more room makes a lot of sense. Graves is big now. Sun's a great Graves player. And Shiyang and there's, Pomelo and some other supports going around as well. OMG have a big roster to draw from. But for me, bring Uzi in games where you need a harder carry and then take him out. Just experiment a bit because it's a long league. You want to make sure players have breaks. I think it's a good move from OMG.
All right, Pastry. And something else that I definitely want to touch on coming out of last week was some of the upsets. And we'll start with Snake. What happened with them?
Man, Snake, wheels falling a little bit off the hype train, it seems like, finally picking up their first full series loss in the LPL.
Yeah, and the main critics of Snake speak to their champion pools. Nunu, Jarvan, and Xerath are kind of their 3 big power picks. When those get denied, it seems like they struggle. Are teams going to keep doing that, and how is Snake going to deal with it?
I mean, teams are absolutely going to keep doing that. We've noted that when Beast isn't on the front foot for his team, Snake just doesn't look nearly as potent as they have been in the first half of the LPL. So I think they are going to pick on them, and Snake, they just have to adapt. They've got to get more champion picks. We've got a lot of diversity already in the top side and bottom side between the dual lane and Flandre in the top. So there is flexibility there. It's just a matter of Bucket and Beast finding other champions to play in Snake, finding their feet again as a team. Because if they don't, people are going to keep doing this, and they're going to keep finding the same problem.
All right, so the next upset I want to talk about is Royal versus Energy Pacemakers. What was the lowdown with this game?
And again, it seems like Royal just continuing to be inconsistent. Insects are having good games, and Royal still suffering without Name.
Yeah, and it was Victor, right? That's the whole reason. But in all honesty, it did look like Starhorn Royal Club was a little sloppy. How much of that was from Raphael's Victor and the surprise factor, or just Starhorn Royal being sloppy?
I mean, Royal have looked sloppy, but we can't undersell EP's play here either. They played fantastically as a team around that Victor, giving Raphael quadras and triples pretty much all weekend long. So, I mean, EP, they just outplayed Royal. That's the big thing. And they're finally coming together in the second half of a split and looking like a full team.
You just wanted to hear about Victor.
I love that champion. There's no reason not to.
All right, and one more upset we definitely have to talk about is World Elite versus Invictus. Give us the lowdown on that one.
And finally, a classic rivalry here between IG and World Elite. World Elite finally picking up a 2-0.
Yeah, and now World Elite, they've looked like one of the worst teams in China for most of the LPL split, but they turned it around last week a little bit, and now they're going to be going to IEM Katowice. What do you think their chances are there?
I think as far as LPL goes, they're still sitting towards the bottom. They've got a long way to go, but a few weeks ago, probably wouldn't have given them a good chance at IEM, and now moving in, looking a lot more hopeful and consistent as a team. They have a decent shot, I think, internationally, but they're still going to struggle a lot, both domestically and internationally.
All right, awesome, Pastry Time. It's always a pleasure catching up with you. We'll see you again soon.
Nope. Cheers, Jet and Riv. It's been great.
And speaking of IEM, let's take a closer look at another team that will be competing, the Yowie Flash Wolves, a lineup with a lot of familiar faces in it.
Yeah, this lineup is actually 4/5 of the team previously known as Gamma Bears, who played in the 2013 World Championship. The only exception is their former jungler Wins, who is now on the rival team, the Taipei Assassins. And interestingly enough, that's the only team that has beaten them this season. And on the flip side, they also handed TPA their only loss this split. And right now, the Yowie Flash Wolves actually look like the most solid team in the LMS. The Wolves also beat TPA 3-2 in the IEM Taipei Finals, which is what sent them to Katowice next week.
Who would have expected? And this Thursday, the two teams will meet for the last time this split. It's a must-win game for the Wolves if they want to own first place. Not only will it give them sole control of the top spot, but it will also give them the head-to-head advantage in case they wind tied up with TPA. Now, let's take a look at those Flash Wolves in action as the number 3 Hong Kong Esports look to challenge the white-hot Yowie Flash Wolves at number 2 in the standings.
Yeah, also got to mention the number 3 team has Toys on it. That's his new team over in the LMS here. But Dinter gets himself and his team in a lot of trouble early with that failed invade.
A lot of trouble indeed, and the choice for Maple to go for Dinter and grab double buffs just makes this fight glorious for them.
It's an absolute mess. I mean, a 5v5 in the river 4 minutes in, but it's all about who started this fight in the league. This is that I think I can turn this fight mentality from Hong Kong Esports, but Maple knows he can. He's got double buffs on the Blanc, and they clean up this fight for the Flash Wolves.
One after the other, with Ale going down a 3-0-2 to start off Maple 4.5 minutes into the game, and it led to advantageous situations like these deathless dives.
Maple was already 5-0 before this dive. You can see him absolutely
so big,
blowing up and making people disappear. This game got out of hand very quickly.
That's right. We also see Steak getting eaten up here, but it just was not enough for the team. With them grabbing Dinter again, they were absolutely able to crush the game.
Yeah, don't even really know what happened with the Ezreal shifting into LeBlanc at the end there, but the game was pretty much over. Laughs and happiness all around for the Flash Wolves.
So true. And with just 2 weeks remaining in their spring split, here are the LMS standings. After winning their match against Never Give Up this morning, the Wolves are now tied with TPA for first place.
And since only the top 4 teams in the LMS head to the playoffs, Hong Kong Esports and AHQ will look to hold on to their spots in the remaining games.
And now we'll head over to the European LCS, where we have to single out one of the newest players to join their rank and file. It's actually an old player who has returned to the fold, and that is none other than Elements' support player, Crepo. Crepo came in to replace Nif last week, and while the team went 1-1, he also managed to provide a source of inspiration for one of our European casters.
Yeah, smiles and relief on their faces, you can really tell. Crepo happy with that first result as they go over to shake hands with MYM.
That's not the same Crepo we saw in the intro movie.
No, I don't think so.
What happened right there? Lost some weight, got a little bit buffed.
Changed his jersey.
I have a picture on my desk of Crepo with no shirt on. We put it up on Twitter.
Yes.
We had to print it out. We look at it every day. It's beautiful.
It inspires us.
Yes, it does.
Just like that performance. Good work, Gentleman Frog, and big smile on his face.
And because we are PTL, we had to look into this and fact-check Deficio. And sure enough, he was telling the truth. Indeed, Deficio.
100% real picture right there. Everything about it. I can vouch. I've seen it.
It's real. It's on the internet. But selfies aside, let's take a look at how Crepo performed in his first outing with Elements, where he managed to keep his shirt on as they faced off against Meet Your Makers.
Yeah, so much hype coming into this match. How would Crepo and Reckless perform? And honestly, it does help to be playing the last place team in the European LCS. His Blitzcrank was good, though.
He was definitely on point, overdriving everywhere to make sure that Meet Your Makers was out of position. Here's another one, getting a little bit of speed on to get the grab down. Reckless going a little bit hard because he can.
Yeah, Reckless did say after the game that he really likes the play style of Crepo. Crepo's aggressive, Reckless is a little bit more passive, so they can balance each other out. Well, there was a lot of going in this time from Crepo, and it was working great. He even pulled the blue buff in.
The hook Taj, yeah, not even the buffs were safe from this one. Calling the shots, the debut was quite nice for Crepo here, and the team was so far ahead, engages like this from Nisbeth just couldn't be followed up on for MYM.
Yeah, that was actually the perfect example of Crepo being aggressive and Reckless bouncing him out because he literally pulled him out of the fray and allowed Elements to pick up this team fight. They were up by so much going into this one, though, Riv. It was kind of a formality at this point.
Yep, the 4 dragons, everything was just the story from there on out. Elements had to sign off on the game, and that was from the surrender of Meet Your
15 kills to
Makers.
3. So nice.
So nice indeed. But the real test would actually come when Elements had to face off against SK Gaming. Crepo would for surely be put to the test then.
Forgiven asked if he has the greatest skills in the bottom lane. He said by far.
By far.
It's a little bit beaten down at this point, but in this game it really showed. The CS at this point in the game, 126 to 87.
Yeah.
Not even close.
That little dodge by N-Rated really left Crepo out to dry. Last few kills to pick it up with the collateral damage, and that kind of started things off.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the end there when they're down in CS and then they give up a kill while somebody is ganking. Kevin a little bit caught out. Not the best way to start this fight. Freddy goes in.
Flash, Soul, Shackle. Hard to say 5 times fast, but Freddy goes in. He wants to party in this mid lane dance. N-Rated was there to finish off with the Tibbers, and they were at Baron just long enough to pull Elements out of the base for this fight.
Yep, Crepo, first one down in this fight, has very little impact. Jinx can't get going, even with the Zonias from Frog, and it was just a pile on for SK. This almost felt like Elements versus MYM, except Elements was playing the role of the inferior team this time. SK was so much stronger than them here.
Just about a 10K gold lead. They're able to come up big with that win and put Elements down to make them 1-1 on the week. So after 6 weeks of the spring split, let's check out the current EU standings. Since Fnatic beat SK Gaming last week, the 2 teams are now tied for first place.
But things do remain close. H2K is just 1 game behind, followed by a surging Gambit in 4th place.
And now to tell us more about Crepo's debut and Gambit's turnaround, let's bring in someone who has had a front row seat in Europe this split. How's it going, Shox?
Hey, Riv. Well, I was feeling a little bit under the weather, but I'm ready just in time for PTL and LCS. And by the way, I checked Twitter, and the viewers agree EU is greater than NA. We won by 57%. Get wrecked.
Well, at least it's good to see you're feeling better. So you guys got to see Crepo on the other side of the camera last week. How do you think he did?
Well, I'm not going to lie, it was weird seeing him back on the player stage. And in the first game versus MYM, they pulled out a Ballista combo. He went 0-1-12 on Blitzcrank, while Reckless was 6-1-7 on Kalista. Great plays coming in from them both and the whole team, actually. But that was versus the last place team. We did get to listen in to their comms, and Crepo was really a shot caller and a captain in that one, just setting up everything for the team. And it was a great difference the next day when Elements took on SK Gaming, actually a day and night difference. Elements decided to go for a passive late game comp with Orianna and Jinx in there. Crepo was on Thresh, which is his favorite, but it was only Shook on Lee Sin that could make things happen early, and it didn't quite work out for them when they tried to set up plays. And when you're playing versus Forgiven and Enrated on Graves and Annie, a great lane matchup as it is, you're gonna have to make things happen early, and it didn't happen. And it just seemed like all that communication that was going good the day before seemed all over the place the next day. Now, as far as drawing conclusions goes, it would have been hard for Elements to beat SK anyway, but SK had been on a losing streak somewhat. They had lost 3 games in a row, and I would have expected a little bit better from Elements, maybe coming out with a different team comp, a different plan, because all the other teams before them had been able to take advantage of SK's perceived weaknesses. So we'll see what happens. They do have Wicked coming back in the top lane. Kevin is out, and Nif is now head coach. We'll see what that brings, but the clock is ticking for Elements.
All right. Well, meanwhile, Gambit started this season with 5 straight losses, but they have really turned things around. What are they doing differently?
Well, right now it feels like they are doing everything right. They turned their game around halfway through week 3 and have now won 7 straight games in a row. They actually have a chance at tying Fnatic's 9-game single-split win streak this week if they win. As far as last week goes, another 2-0 week for Gambit. We're starting to get used to it, although it's a little strange. They got behind early versus the Copenhagen Wolves, but a couple of good roams from Betsy, great TPs and cannon ults by Cabochard in combination with Diamond Sejuani were just fantastic for them, and it is really a deadly duo, Diamond and Cabochard. And then in the Roccat game the day after, Gambit was indecisive at times, but even with their flaws, they have won 7 games straight. And one person that's really stepping up is Diamond. He's showing up big, especially on Sejuani last week. Poor Ryder Sejuani, so he's having fun and wrecking phase.
Fun in the wins is the best thing, right? And Betsy coming in for Nick has made a difference as well. And Gambit has confirmed this is now a permanent move. but Nick took the change with a few grains of salt.
A little bit of salt. There was enough salt that I used on my fries yesterday, but all jokes aside, Nick actually reminds me of Betsy. Both are not super hard carries, but Betsy has had moments of brilliance, and the substitution, of course, coincided with the early momentum of Gambit's winning streak, which is also a mental aspect. As far as stats go, they have similar stats, but Betsy has more kills, where Nick has more assists, and Betsy dies a bit more in wins, but is also more involved in team kills overall. That means he isn't afraid to get in there in that brawl, which is good when you're playing Assassins. And well, they have the win streak, Gambit, and they have IM Katowice coming up, where they're going to be battling CJ Entis in their first game, and we know that one from a couple of IMs ago. It's going to be a great matchup as well.
And speaking of Gambit, it seems like Edward has wanted Primetime League to show the team some love in mic check. Don't worry, Edward. We have heard the call and answered. So let's listen in behind the scenes to Gambit's team comms in a special edition of Mic Check. Now, Shocks, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that's titled Calm Before the Storm.
Yeah, it does remind me of the Elements comms before Crepo came in.
Oh, shots. Well, thanks for joining us and not firing any of those shots my way.
I would never do that, Riv.
Thank you. So let's take a look at what Shock said was going right for Gambit as we check out their game versus Roccat.
Yeah, and this one, well, it was Sejuani time again for Diamond, and Betsy as well continued his strong stand. Early on in the game, the Roccat was a little bit in the deficit. Diamond goes top lane to try and make a play.
Oh, that auto attack allowing for the permafrost and pretty much the permadeath here.
There were so many skill shots missed by Gambit on this gank. Diamond didn't land his slam. Cabochard binded the minion, but they had such overwhelming force for that gank, it still worked.
It happened in every gank. Woolite, 3 attacks too many, and then once again, let's go deep for this one.
Diamond lands the ult. Let's flash the wall this time. They destroy Woolite. This fight was very key in getting Pinoy started in this game because he was going to have a big impact later.
He was going to have a huge impact later. Diamond, happy with everything. He was liking the Pinoy insect move on Tristana. And I keep thinking, if Jankos had smited Betsy, would he be alive?
Yes. There is 20% damage reduction, especially if he spites him early on. Not just a dueling item, sometimes a defensive item. But 5th Dragon, denied.
Denied by the king of the jungle himself. And even though Roccat looked like they were surging with these dragons, ready to grab Aspect, Gambit had other plans. Yeah,
I mean, you look at the total gold in this game. Yes, Roccat had been getting the dragons, but the gold wasn't there, so they overcommitted for that dragon. Then when they lost the Smite War, even if they had gotten the Smite War, I question whether or not they would have been able to take that fight with ease. But because they didn't have the dragon, because Diamond stole it, and because Pinoy killed them, they get the game.
Riding the cavalry through, using the Talisman of Ascension as well to get to the Nexus even quicker as Gambit continues that win streak.
Yeah, they are red hot right now. It feels a lot like Gambit is back. That game did show some vulnerabilities, though. They almost lost that one a couple times.
Almost, but almost only counts on horseshoes and hand grenades.
Absolutely.
And we're going to keep things in Europe for our BF Game of the Week.
Yes, now SK Gaming have had control of first place for most of the split, with Fnatic always hot on their heels. And thanks to SK's recent struggles, Fnatic now find themselves tied atop the table with a shot at taking over sole control of first place for the first time all season. These two teams faced off for the first time this split just 2 weeks ago when Fnatic put a stop to SK's 8-game winning streak and set SK's current slide into motion.
That's right, so tune in to see if SK can get revenge when they face off again on Thursday in the European LCS's 4th game of the day.
And we had plenty of players across the LCS fantasy scene last week, so it's that time again to take a look at the top performers and the bottom performers. There were some big-time performers on H2K. The top 3 spots across the entire LCS were Otto Omne, Hjarnan, and Lulex from H2K. So if you had faith in these guys at the start of the year, it definitely paid off because they were not high priority picks in fantasy drafts. On the other end of the spectrum, though, there are always people at the bottom, and they seem linked like this. 1 week they're at the top, the next week they show up here. Pobelter and Altec. 9.1 points for Pobelter, 11.2 for Alltech. Not a good week for Winterfox. And Shifter had actually been performing quite well, averaging 23 points per game the last 3 weeks, but he fell down to only 6.8 points per game, which ends up putting him on this dud list. But there are so many fantasy alerts this week. Winterfox kind of at the forefront here. Imagine was actually benched. Alltech was moved to support, and put me in, coach, says their coach. And Paragon is going to be playing AD carry. He is a former Incredible Miracle player from Korea, so maybe it will work out. But from a fantasy perspective, if you're wondering what happens to Alltech now, he still counts as an AD carry until he plays 3 or more games on a different role. So I would recommend benching him since he will be playing as a support, but listed as an AD carry until it's proven that that's a real lane swap in the long term. But the alerts keep coming. Wicked's back in on Elements. Kevin is moved to the bench. We'll have to see how that goes. Wicked's been practicing a lot while he's been out. MYM, Nisbeth is out, Noxiac is in, but if you're still starting MYM players, I don't really have too much advice for you. You probably shouldn't be playing anyone from that team. They are not good fantasy performers thus far. And big late-breaking news, Keith is actually out despite his amazing fantasy performances and kills per game, and Piglet is back in. The team says his attitude has improved, and that will be a huge wait and see. Maybe this time when Piglet comes in, he will put up a few more kills. And finally, we have some fantasy sleepers. Phoenix, everyone's been talking about keep Keith. Do you play Piglet? Phoenix has always been doing well here. So they're also playing Teammate at Impulse. Some big points there. And then just looking against 2 H2K plays against Gambit Gaming and Copenhagen Wolves, on top of the fact that these guys are near the top of the fantasy performers and that 11.5% of owners actually have Lulex, H2K, these guys are going to be doing well. So hot right now. Pick up those players. They're probably available. That actually does it for us in Fantasy LCS. And against my better judgment, we're again going to send it to Phreak, who's doing his own league.
Well, against my better judgment, Jat, I'm going to listen to you. Now, I'd like to point out to Shocks that even though you said earlier, oh, EU, we beat NA by like 5% of the Twitter vote. Yeah, your population's higher. No crap. Hashtag puns of damage beat over hashtag quick shots 3-1, just because my puns are so awesome. So looks like NA is better than EU after all. Anyhow, welcome back to the only fantasy league that matters, PrimeTime League's Fantasy League of Legends Legendary League. Now, some people like to spin the numbers, and they say that I lost the matchup last week because my points were lower. But some people are smart like me and say, look, I just like to give wins away to make people feel better. Look at this tweet from Artie. In case you were wondering, yes, I am looking out for my fellow man, and in case electronic dance music doesn't work out for you, then you can play fantasy for a living. Here's what else happened across the rest of the PTL FL4. Freddie Wong managed to defeat Chris Cluey in our featured head-to-head matchup from Week 6. 85% of you picked that one properly, so nicely done, everyone. 50% of you are not very smart, but that's okay. And my loss also helped create a sense of false security for Xpeke, Snoopy, and Freddie, who have ended up in a 3-way tie for first place. That, of course, does not matter because we all know I will come back to win anyhow. It's part of my elaborate plan to this week. Listen to Jat, because why not? Even though I wasn't facing Chris Cluey last week, that didn't stop him from engaging in a little Teemo-based trash talk. Little does he know that my false cry for mercy was just setting him up for defeat as I take him on this week. The match to watch will be between 2 former Worlds veterans as Xpeke and Snoopy fight over first place. We want you guys at home to let us know who's going to win this fight. First place prize gets to look at themselves in the mirror. Tweet hashtag Xpeke win or hashtag Snoopy win to @LOL Esports along with the hashtag PTL, and we can see where your loyalties lie. Now, while your thumbs are busy, we'll take you behind the scenes and tune in on the team's comms, where the players say the darndest things. It's time for mic check.
Okay, we practiced it, okay? Everybody was Kung Fu Fighting.
They clap for us, they clap for you. They all clap for Ola.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't notice that shit.
It's his fans.
Roulette. We have Ezreal. Ezreal is the only one. I will look out for that.
Alright.
Stop. Okay, go. Good job, guys. Good job.
Well,
now go top.
Oh, I go first. I still.
Cannon. Help me, Z.
Kill set.
Nice.
Cannon.
Rek'Sai.
Nice. Yeah. Go barn. Don't chase.
I know.
Nice. I steal the Smite King. Really nice Smite. I steal the Smite King, guys.
Please, God of Smite, please.
You have no smile?
No, I have two.
Okay.
I have 2 steel of Smite.
It's okay.
It's okay. We trust you, Raj. We trust you. We trust you.
Okay, this time, please. Take care.
Nice. Shoot in 2 seconds. Go, Pinoy!
Go mid.
Pinoy, life steal.
Boy, what are you saying when you picked up your shoes?
These shoes are so comfortable.
Damn it, Sushi. You gotta try them. No, just end it. I'm real tanky.
40 seconds.
40 seconds. Bottom up.
Watch out. Don't die. Don't take too much.
Jarvan.
End the game.
End the game.
Turn. 20 seconds.
20 seconds.
End the
20
game.
seconds.
End the game.
Yeah, baby!
I'm so good. Wow, yeah!
So we may not be as loud in North America in the mic checks, but we throw our shoes around and we're loud after the games.
Yeah, I also love at the end of that teammate game, it's just like, be careful, don't take the Nexus turret, as Cali was just running into the Nexus turret well before minions of the team were ready for it.
And then Porpoise, they were taking turns, ring around the rosy. But now let's bring the focus to North America as first place Team Solo Mid fought to hold on to the top of the standings against Team Impulse in this game. Oh man, this game.
Yeah,
what a good one.
You're always wondering which Team Impulse would show up. An early game, it wasn't the good one, but they just needed to find that one fight. They had doubles on his hourglass before this fight, and boy, did they find it.
And picking off Lust Boy was the perfect thing here, especially to help Xiao get going, which they needed to on that Cassidy.
Yeah, huge bindings from Impact as well, really fitting in. Only on the backside was Dyrus able to pick up a kill. And that was kind of a pattern here. Dyrus off on the side doing his own thing, while the other 4 members of TSM get steamrolled by Impulse.
It seemed like a little bit of miscommunication from TSM's late game, which is not what we see all the time. Here again, the front line was disengaging as Dyrus tried to get into the backside, and again, TSM does not come out on top.
Wild Turtle had so many things trying to kill him this game, whether it was Leona or the Morg or the Cassidon, and most of them were successful.
You were saying Wild Turtle had so many things coming at him. Here comes Adrian once again as he comes around the corner. Wild Turtle is his target.
The center of the Leona stun so rarely hits true, but it did again and again in this game, allowing Xiao to just pile on, rift walking for kill after kill.
Double kill coming in for Apollo. Nicely done. They're able to get into the base. That's going to be the ace. A full house with Xiao's over Apollo's and the Cassidon and Graves in. The hugs to come out as that was a big win.
Yeah, well, Impact has been stepping up again and again, really starting to look like that world champion from Season 3.
That he is. And now we take a look at Counter Logic Gaming versus Team Liquid. Another game that delivered from Week 6.
Yeah, we saw that there was an upset in that TSM game. CLG trying to avoid the same fate as well. They go with an unconventional double AD composition with Nidalee and Rumble, and there was a whole bunch of chaos in this mid-game fight.
Smithy getting caught out a little early there in the jungle, and this one just kept panning out. Everybody wanted to get around in the batting order here, and it only left a few standing.
Yeah, Keith gets himself back in the game right here, picking up a triple kill after losing laning phase a little bit. And then, you've seen it before. You have the support, tank all the Qs from Ezreal, but
he's going to get him, right?
Link just decided to auto-attack, and now he's like, I can get them both.
There it is.
Let's go.
Last one. Here it is. Q. And you got him. Nope. And then everybody's like, in a parallel universe, Link would go for this. But it was this universe.
And you can see why you're not supposed to do that.
Exactly.
Special had his shield again. And
the all-star smile right there. Coming in on this fight, it looked like great ults, but those didn't hit anybody, and Liquid moved right to the back line.
This was the fatal flaw for CLG in this game. When the Morg could dive in with the Zed, it created so much pressure for CLG's damage dealers that it left Keith to completely free hit at the back of every fight. He started to get huge, and you see it again in this fight. Keith was 6 items, and nobody could touch him.
Nope, too much zoning. You can't let Keith do anything freely at the end of the game. That's when he starts picking up kills. Beautiful play by Liquid this game.
Yeah, it was a long game for them, 54 minutes, but they do play the longest games, and this one worked out very well for them, in large part because of Quas.
All right, so let's take a closer look at that upset win by Team Liquid. First, we have to talk about Quas and his enormous champion pool.
It's pretty big. Quas has played 10 champions in the last 12 games, but more remarkably, 9 in the last 9. coming into the season, you probably couldn't even name 9 viable top lane champions, but Quas has played 9 different ones in a row.
And with a quick teleport from the top lane to the bottom lane, we got to talk about Keith. He's gone Hulk for Team Liquid.
Yeah, he absolutely has. He's even outperforming Steelback, who we call the European Hulk, over in the LCS there. While Keith's laning phase isn't the strongest, he has the highest average kills per game across everyone in the LCS. But Keith is still in school, and because of those commitments, Keith actually can participate in all of Team Liquid's scrims, which, despite TL's performance, has kept the team from making that a permanent change. And as we mentioned earlier, Piglet will actually be starting at AD carry this week for Team Liquid. The team's announcement said, quote, "Piglet has shown significant improvement within the team. We've made noticeable strides in team dynamics and communication with Piglet, and he's earned the right to show this off."
Well, see if it could be big things for them. Now let's shift to CLG. While they are currently tied for second place in the NALCS, they have had big problems beating teams at the top of the table.
Yeah, it's counter to normal where CLG used to play to the level of their competition. They're actually 1-4 against teams at the top of the standings, having only beaten Cloud9 once back in week 2. Whereas on the flip side, that means they have a 7-0 record against teams that are 5th place or below in the standings. And the rest of Counterlogic's schedule has them playing against the bottom teams in every game except for one when they face TSM, which means CLG's record at the top at the end of the year could be pretty sweet, but it will make the playoffs a little bit more interesting with their record against the top tier teams being so poor. It means the chances at the midseason invitational all come into question unless they can clean up that performance against the top tier teams.
That's right. And as we head into the final 3 weeks of the North American Spring Split, here are the standings. TSM continues to hold on to first place at 9-3, but they'll need to hold on tight because Cloud9 and CLG are tied for second, just a single game behind them.
And at the bottom of the standings, Team Coast are in imminent danger of being the first LCS team eliminated from playoff contention if their struggles continue this weekend. If you've been looking to hone your own game by watching the pros play, then sit back and get ready for some knowledge as we enter the League of Learning. Sorry, I'm not Fiora, still just Jat, but I do want to break down some double AD carry compositions that we've been seeing throughout leagues all over, mainly the CLG compositions from the North American LCS, with one of the SK Telecom comps thrown in there as well. Now, the big thing with double AD carry comps is they are all unique, but they're ultimately defined by the support, jungle, and top lane picks. And as we'll see in these examples, everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. The first one I want to take a look at was the first one that CLG ran in week 3 of the LCS against Gravity. And Lissandra as a top laner, in my opinion, is the best top laner in a double AD carry composition because it buys the team so much. Because Lissandra is an assassination threat, immediately you don't have to worry about being all physical damage. People can't just stack armor because Lissandra could assassinate them. It also gives them threat on the enemy squishy targets because Lissandra can get in there and mess them up. This one is also added with a lot of utility from Alistar and Lee Sin, so everything kind of works in it. The only real weaknesses you get from this one is a slightly poor sieging strategy, and the bottom lane of Sivir Alistar is weak in the laning phase, so you may put yourself into some lane swapping scenarios. This one worked quite well for CLG back in week 3. Another one they ran was actually last week against Winterfox. Now this one comes with different strengths and weaknesses. It has a very strong tank line. The Maokai and Jarvan can very well kind of keep the spacing in a team fight to allow Ezreal and Kalista to do work with Thresh as a utility. This has a stronger laning phase, a better early game, and the better tank line, but it does have the weakness of being primarily physical damage. No big-time magic damage threat, so if it does get late, the enemy team can stack armor, and the composition runs into some issues. Third composition I want to take a look at was what CLG played in the very next game. This had none of the problems of being all physical damage. There was a lot of magic damage, actually. Rumble and Nidalee provided that. This composition is almost overloaded with damage. It's one of the big strengths, and it has amazing poke, turret pushing, and objective taking. You saw turrets in this game disappear as soon as they walked up to it, but it came with even stronger weaknesses because of all those strengths it threw in there. You could see very low crowd control. Aphromoo had to make all the plays on Braum. No real front line, so when they got dove, there was nothing to protect them, and with that, they had no way of threatening the enemy AD carry, which is ultimately why Keith ended up carrying the game with so many kills on Jinx. But there's even more variations for double AD carry compositions. Week 6, when SK Telecom played the GE Tigers in the LCK, This one was like a double support AD carry comp. They actually had very good AD carry protection in here. Lucian and Ezreal get time to do work if the enemy team tries to dive on top of them, but it comes with weaknesses as well. Again, primary physical damage, low backline threat, and no good way of initiating because they're just buying time for the AD carries, not necessarily finding fights for them. So as you can see, tons of variation in double AD carry compositions. It's not just about turret pushing, it's the support, top laner, and jungler that really define it. That's all for now.
Thanks very much, chat. I feel like I learned a whole lot already. Now, speaking of learning, let's take a look back at last week's Twitter question and check how knowledge served you in predicting the future. We asked you which LCS player will secure first blood in the fastest time this week. The answer was actually Woolite, who secured first blood in 3 minutes 28 seconds by killing Edward. Unfortunately, none of you got it right, but we want to tip our PTL hat to @GhibliPuffTV, who at least predicted who would die, though he did pick Woolite's teammate Yankos instead. Now we have a new question for you this week. It's 5.4 this week in the LCS. We want to know which jungler will master the changes and come away with the highest cumulative KDA this week. Now we are talking about which player, not which champion. We want both the player and their combined KDA from both their games. Send your answers to @LOLesports along with the hashtag PTL. And if you get within 1 point of the correct KDA, we'll put you right into the PrimeTime League Hall of Fame. Now, the thing is, we wanted it to be 0.5, but Riv was generous enough to say, no, guys, make it 1, make it easier. So if you're in between those two, thank Riv for your spot in the Hall of Fame.
Now let's turn our attention to Korea's LCK, where a fakerless SKT took on CJ Entus.
Yeah, and in their first matchup of the year, CJ Entus reigned supreme. You wouldn't expect them to run EasyHoon right off here, and on Casio of all champions, he got started off well by some nice plays from Wolf and Bengi.
The hooks, the kills, the pop-ups, nice plays there. SKT, like you said, they're looking to get back that 2-0 revenge.
Yeah, and this fight is where EasyHoon really started to take over. He avoids the Hecker Maul, and then it's just free reign for EasyHoon this game. Marin distracting everyone else. Look at him go.
So seeing this, you're like, all right, so EasyHoon got Dragon, but wait, he got 2 more. And then everybody's going to escape, right?
Yeah,
Kassadin has a dash, Corki has a dash, they're getting away. But they literally go so hard for these kills.
Well, he already had 3, so you may as well go for the quadra kill. Like, it's always worth it to go for more kills.
You're going to be able to push everything after that anyways. Look at this, 18-3. Nobody's even safe. This completely blew my mind the entire game. Ambition obviously going to walk away.
He gets that
but
kill.
Not even.
EasyHoon got that kill at the end. 20 kills to 3, an absolute statement game by SKT in game 1. Seemingly unrecoverable for CJ Entus after that one, but they try and get you.
Chobra was right. EasyHoon God mode for sure. Seeing Marin in the top lane, obviously you got to go for the tank sometimes, take the easy guy out, and that's where CJ Entus started this game.
Yeah, Shy was a bit of a force in this game, and it's the big thing that SKT had to get through. Look at that fast horse!
Woo! Coming in, flying through. Wait, I still got more for you, though. Back in, right into the fight, but he misses that one, unfortunately. Shy, rather Wolf with a sidestep.
One of the most flashable ultimates in the game. And look at him, he's going the long way around this time, but it's a little bit slow. You can see when Shy gets into this fight what an impact he has, but the rest of his team is dead.
He just does not care, not being shy at all at this point. They actually have to re-chase him out of the base here before they can go back and end the game. They want to make sure they get him down.
Yeah, but finally they do get him down. EasyHoon picks up another kill. He's 7-0-5, and because the base was in shambles at that point, SKT gets the 2-0.
Smiles on the faces. I guess we don't need Faker all the time.
Clearly
says
not.
SKT.
I mean, EasyHoon is really performing in some of these games. Those games in particular, he was just amazing.
We'll see. That's also an amazing swap to have for mid laners to go back and forth. So here's looking out to SKT for now. Here's a look at the current LCK standings as well. After dominating the win this morning, the GE Tigers continue to sharpen their claws with a 9-0 record.
And SKT has now moved into second place, followed closely by Jin Air and CJ Entus. And now let's actually bring in our Korean connection in the LCK, OGN's Trober. How's it going, man?
Great. How are you, Jet?
I'm doing really good. I want to start talking about SKT as well because they're continuing to rise back up the standings. They're now in second place. Where do you attribute the majority of their success?
Well, I have to say that SKT, I think, really are finding the right balance that they've needed. And they're doing this by using their full roster very effectively. Now, this is something I've talked about continuously here on PTL and things that analysts have thought about and discussed for the entirety of the first round robin here in the LCK. But SKT is finally finding out that yes, we can make our different rosters work. Mainly, I want to talk about Easyhoon up against Faker. Until now, people said, why is Easyhoon still on the team? Faker is obviously the best mid in the world. There's no reason to swap him out. But Easyhoon showed us last week when they played against CJ Entus that he doesn't have to stay in his kind of Season 2 passive mode. He can go aggressive even if it's on the same champions like Cassiopeia and Lulu that tend to be a little bit more farming champions. So Easyhoon going 11 kills and only 1 death on his game on Cassiopeia, no deaths on his Lulu, and just making big plays for SKT Telecom 1. That was just a huge change for SKT, and I think really shows that now people are going to have to prepare against both Faker and Easyhoon.
Yeah, I actually wonder if the question will ever become whether or not Easyhoon should be starting over Faker in big matches, only because his numbers back it up so heavily. I do want to talk about another player on a different team, though. Najani Fire, they debuted their new jungler recently, Peanut. Now that he has 5 games under his belt, how do you think he's doing?
Well, I have to say that Peanut, his scores aren't necessarily spectacular. They're not poor either, but it's not like we saw his first 5 games and we said he needs to be picked up by any team in the world. Everyone should be fighting for him. He's not quite there yet, but at the same time, he's very young. I mean, he debuted as soon as he could legally in the LCK. Until then, he was just a training member in the Najin house. And as he entered in the second round robin, a lot of the junglers in the LCK mentioned that they deem Peanut as their rival. He's the player to beat in the jungle just because he's been dominating so much in solo queue here in Korea. Now, his Rengar, even if the score doesn't show it, in his very first debut game against SK Telecom, was very impressive, and it shows why Rengar is his most played champion, and it actually drew a ban even though SKT won that first game. Afterwards, he's been playing the standard round of junglers, Jarvan, Lee Sin. We even saw a game on Rek'Sai, and he's been able to do pretty well. I think he has a pretty good impact on the game, but we're going to need to see a little bit more aggression from him if he's going to be the changing factor for Najin Empire.
Well, thanks a lot, Chober. I really look forward to see how Peanut develops in the LCK. Great analysis, and it's always great to have you with us.
Choosing 5 amazing moments from the pro players every week is not easy because there's just so many to pick from.
Yes, but that's half of the fun. Let's actually check out some of the biggest plays from last week, or as Shirtless Crepo would like to call them, the Penta.
That's right, coming in at number 5, Link got blown away by Xpecial's Janna.
He's trying to dodge the Q. He jumps over, trades one back. Xpecial now chased down by Link. I don't think he's got the damage to get the kill. In fact, he doesn't. That's... Oh, he missed. Not quite the kill. Oh my God, that fight. All right. He's going for it. Oh my God. No. Xpecial wins the Hunger Games.
At number 4, Koro deftly steals the Penta.
Gonna dive back in onto Pon. Does pop the ulti on himself. Clearlove in the back doing good damage and depth. Gonna start to clean up. Gets 1, gonna get 2. Can he make it a triple? Goes in. There's 3. That's 4. No, Koro, he stole the pentakill. Depth has to settle for a quadra.
And at number 3, Wind breezes in for the game-winning Baron steal.
应该是要被拿到了巴龙 buff， 欧蕾，哇！彭年又抢到了巴龙，不会叫巴龙的男人，果然还是不会叫巴龙。巴龙没有重击到，那这一波团战一定是 TPN 的收头秀。哇，滑板鞋拼命滑，还闪现上去，Toy这边也走不掉，最后被 Looping 打出一个绝望的 Triple Kill， 是 Quadra Kill。
Coming in at number 2, Wayless's Diana rushes in for the instant triple.
Vengeful Maelstrom, not quite enough to save his life there as Wayless. He's back alive, but not for long you have to think, but he takes down Sigdream. A triple kill instantly out of nowhere. We may have a game continuing, ladies and gentlemen.
So much damage.
And in our number 1 play this week, LGD gets wrecked by Hui's pentakill.
Tails gonna get black shielded here. He does manage to land a nice Frosters bomb. They turn it around, but it's the kills coming through instantly as Lemmy comes down. The double Gnar into the wallop here as well as Acorn. He's come round. So's Wayless who picks up Tail. Everyone coming through, and this is the benefit of multiple teleports. Huey, he's got a triple now in this fight. Wayless looking to try and pick one of his own. A quadra kill on the bottom side of the map, and Zhao who comes round. Can Huey get the pentakill in the bottom lane? He can! Ridiculous play from Huey.
Wow! I love Atlas's enthusiasm. In a 10-minute pentakill, you have to be kidding me.
Yeah.
That's
6-0 Rek'Sai.
Ridiculous. You can send us your favorite moments from the games throughout the world of LOL Esports when they happen.
Yes, just tweet the highlights to @LOL Esports with the hashtag #ThePenta, and we will add it to the mix.
That's right. And if you want to watch the North American LCS but can't make it to our studios in Los Angeles, check out one of the upcoming viewing parties near you.
Yeah, this weekend you can join fellow LCS fans in Chicago, New York, and Washington, D.C., or plan one of your own viewing parties. You'll find everything you need at lolesports.com/VP.
You want to plan a viewing party?
Yeah, at the LCS studios, at the caster desk.
All right, let's do it. All right, well, that wraps up another edition of Primetime League. As a heads up, next week, teams across the pro scene head to a showdown at IEM Katowice.
Yes, that does mean you'll have to do without PTL in your life for just 1 week, but don't worry because it is just that 1 week, and we'll be back on Wednesday, March 18th.
That's right, but there's still plenty to celebrate because patch 5.4 hits the LCS this week, and hopefully we'll see DJ Sona drop some beats.
Yeah, which is perfect, Riv, because the teams are ready to get their groove on in our last hit.